students, today I am going to teach about breathing and exchange of gases in human physiology. So first of all, what will happen in the digestion process? The complex food materials are digested into the simple molecules. The complex food materials are breakdowns into the simple molecules. So these simple molecules, they diffuse into the blood. Through the blood circulatory system, they reach to the different parts of our body. They supply to the all cells in our body. So the food materials supply to the all cells. So what will happen in the cells? In the cells, for example, this is the cell. In the cell, mitochondria are present. So these food materials, these simple food materials, they reach to mitochondria. In the mitochondria, what will happen in the mitochondria? For example, glucose. Glucose is the simple molecule of food materials. The carbohydrates are converted into glucose, proteins are breakdowns into the amino acids, and lipids are also digested into the fatty acids. So these simple molecules, they reach to mitochondria. In the mitochondria, the breakdown processes takes place in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, the glucose is converted into, or glucose produce ATP plus carbon dioxide plus water. So this reaction takes place in the mitochondria. This reaction takes place in the mitochondria. As a result, ATP is produced. So this ATP is utilized for different metabolic activities in our body. So this process is called respiration. This respiration process takes place in the presence of oxygen. That's why this process is also called oxidation process. So in the mitochondria, oxidation of the food materials, as a result, ATP is produced. So this ATP is utilized for our different metabolic activities in our body. Next, respirations. Types of the respirations. So respiration means oxidation. Respiration means oxidation of food materials is called respiration process. So these respirations mainly classified into two types. First one, anaerobic respiration, aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, aerobic respiration. Two respirations takes place. Anaerobic respiration. First of all, anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration means here this respiration takes place without oxygen. Here this process, aerobic process takes place presence of the oxygen. Next, here small amount of energy is produced. Energy is produced. Next, here large amount of energy is produced. Here partial breakdown takes place. Here complete breakdown takes place. Next, examples here in yeast, bacteria, yeast. Next, skeletal muscles and RBC. In these, the anaerobic respiration takes place here. All cells perform the aerobic respiration. So I will explain with one equation. So here, for example, in the yeast, first one, the reaction in the yeast. Glucose converted into ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus ATP. So this reaction takes place in the yeast. So what will happen here? Without oxygen. So this process takes place absence of the oxygen. Next, here only small amount of energy is produced. Here only one glucose molecule can produce only 2 molecules of ATP. Next, partial breakdown is takes place. Here glucose only partial. Here glucose partially breakdown. Ethanol is produced. Means still this division, this breakdown is not completed. So ethanol is produced. Next, carbon dioxide ATP is produced. So partial breakdown is takes place. Next, one more example in skeletal muscle and RBC. In the skeletal muscle of human being, next RBC. In the RBC also mitochondria is absent. So that's why in RBC also the anaerobic respiration is takes place. So here what will happen? Glucose converted into lactic acid plus carbon dioxide plus 2 ATP. 2 ATPs are produced. Next, in aerobic respiration. So what will happen in the aerobic respiration? For example, glucose break down into the ATP plus CO2 plus water. So here what are the points? First point is presence of the oxygen. So this reaction takes place. This process, this respiration process takes place in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen. Without oxygen, the aerobic respiration is absent. So in this glucose molecule, these glucose molecules break down by the oxygen molecules. So this process takes place, presence of oxygen. Next, large amount of energy is produced. Here nearly one glucose molecule can produce 36 ATPs. Here only 2 ATPs. Only 2 ATPs are produced. That's why here small amount of energy is produced. Here large amount of energy is produced. Next, complete breakdown is processes takes place. Here glucose completely break down to produce end products. ATP, carbon dioxide and water. These are completely end products. So end products are produced in aerobic respiration. So these are differences between anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration. In the aerobic respiration, some phases takes place. Some phases. For example, here aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration has some phases, some steps, phases or steps. So in this first one is the external respiration. External respiration. External respiration is also called ventilation. Ventilation or pulmonary respiration. That is also called pulmonary respiration. So first phase is external respiration or ventilation or pulmonary respiration. So which means here the external respiration means the exchange of gases in between lungs and blood is called external respiration. During breathing, what will happen? During breathing inhalation process, the oxygen is dissolved into the blood. At the same time, the carbon dioxide released into the outside. So this process is called external ventilation. Here we can write exchange of gases between lungs and blood. So this process is called external respiration or ventilation, or is also called pulmonary respiration. So this process takes place in alveoli. Next, internal respiration. Next, internal respiration. Internal respiration means after external respiration, the gases, for example, gases means oxygen is dissolved, oxygen is binds with blood. Oxygen binds with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. So this oxygen is transferred to is circulated to the cells, to the tissues, cells or tissues. So in that, whenever it reaches to the tissues, here one more diffusion takes place. Here exchange of gases means oxygen and carbon dioxide. Exchange of gases between blood and tissues. Tissues or cells. We can right cell also. Exchange of gases between blood and tissue is called internal respiration. One more phase is also there in cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. So cellular respiration means whenever the oxygen enters into the cell, when it is enters into the cell, that oxygen break down the food material to produce the energy. So that catabolic reaction, that oxidation reaction is called cellular respiration, or breaking down of food materials in the cell. The cell is called cellular respiration, or also called, right, utilization of oxygen is also called cellular respiration. So these are three phases: external respiration or ventilation or pulmonary respiration. Next, second one is internal respiration. Third one is cellular respirations. So these are types of respirations.